Hey y'all, this is River Jim. As you might be able to tell, I'm back in Florida after being in Minnesota for the summer, which was a fantastic place to be. Back in Florida, we had quite a trip coming down here. The hurricane came through just as we were coming down, so we ended up spending time in North Carolina for a few days and watched that storm come through. Then we headed back down here, and we were fortunate in our place. A few trees down, a mess. The garden's totally ravaged, but basically no structural damage. So we're very thankful. And now we're all cleaned up. Things are kind of back to normal. And normal in this country is still a nightmare. Since I've last been on here, we've had our Las Vegas mass murder, again with a serious military-style weapon, with banana clips and bump stock. So the weapons they were doing is about 9 rounds a second. So if you can imagine that. And you have to think of, this guy was 300 yards away, and I'm a hunter. I know the calibers that they shoot out of these military weapons, they're going to drop when they go 300 yards. So basically, this guy was just lobbing it in over their heads and just mass hitting people when he figured out what the range was of shooting above their heads, and so fast he just mowed them down. And then the NRA, who I used to belong to when they were into restoring wetlands and supporting hunting and conservation groups, now they're basically insane and supporters of war and destruction in our country. That Wayne De La Pew, or whatever his name is beyond psychopath. Anyway. Anyway, they say, these people, if they don't have a gun, they'll kill people with other things. I can't imagine that they would be throwing spears out of a 32nd floor window. Or I can't imagine anything else from that vantage point that could have hurt the amount of people that were hurt. If you don't have these giant clips, if you don't have this bump stock and these military-style weapons, you can't do that kind of damage. You might kill some people. I acknowledge that. He could have sat up there with my rifle, my deer rifle, and killed a dozen people. But by the time he emptied a clip, I have a 4-round clip in my 243. And filled it back up, or you grabbed another clip and snapped it in there and kept shooting. I have a lever action, so it takes a little more time. People could have dispersed, they could have run, they could have probably gotten out of the way. But anyway, that was happening since we've last talked, and it's gut-wrenching. It's horrible. And of course, our president, he did away with the Dreamer Act. Of course, he gave it some time for Congress to put something in its place. But if you've watched our Congress with the ultra-right that's in actually the House of Representatives, you can't imagine that those guys are going to really pass something that's going to help these young people. So I'm really worried about that, and we should be, because it's patently not fair to have people who are brought here no fault of their own, they were raised as American kids, went to our schools, and now are starting lives. It's so un-American. And then we've got other things. We've got taxes that are going to benefit the 1%. Cutting corporate tax, cutting income tax, getting rid of the estate tax, so that these billionaires can, without any penalty, make sure that their kids will continue to be billionaires, even though they've earned nothing. But anyway, that's what's happening. Yeah, Obamacare, as cruel a blow as this president has laid on the American people to do away with subsidies. He puts it as extra profits for insurance companies. It's crap. It's just paying for people who can't pay for their deductibles, and making it so that even people with limited incomes can have a reasonable health care. But there's no reason in this administration. Anyway, thinking about what happens when I'm fishing, and I have these deep thoughts, and the one I had just recently was we were out, and I got these bad boys here to show. I have these two rods. I've got this bad boy for catching the lunkers out here in Florida, and then there's this little guy. And if you put them side by side, they're quite different, and they sit right side by side in my shed, and it's like, I wonder if the big one thinks, oh man, I'm a whole lot better than that little twat, what can it do? But the fact is, when I'm out there fishing, I take the little one and catch bait fish, and then I use the bait fish with the big one to catch the big ones. But if I didn't have bait fish, I'm not catching any big ones. I mean, you can throw some plastic thing on there and you might get one or two if you're lucky, really lucky. But the way to do it is to catch the bait fish, put on the live bait, troll slow, boom, you're getting billfish, you're getting beautiful kings, you're getting all kinds of really good fish out there. But the big one should not be proud. If it's dragging a bare hook, it's getting nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like that in America. People want to go to great restaurants. You think you can have a restaurant if there isn't some guy working at minimum wage or less washing dishes? Probably an immigrant. You're not going to be able to go to a restaurant and eat if they're not cleaning the place, if they're not doing all that. If the roads aren't repaired, you're not going anywhere. If the garbage isn't picked up. The only way this works is for everyone to do their jobs. They need to be compensated, and the world, the big machine world, you take out a tiny link out of a $1 million watch, take a tiny little circle out of there, and that watch grinds to a halt. And that's the way it is in America. You want to have capitalism, that's fine, but you have to recognize the value of people at every level. And when people are starving on one end and people are getting billions of dollars and acting like they earned it all, they didn't. They didn't even come close to earning it all. They did a lot, and you got to give them their creds, but they don't have to complete billions, really. Anyway, that's all I got. Beautiful day. The seas are calming down after the storm. I'm going.